Hi, today's workshop is about ER. Now, ER usually means extensive reading. Well, it does mean extensive reading, but it could also mean effective reading. Actually, there are many good things that come out of ER. We could call it, let's say you're reading an adventure story. Maybe it's exciting reading. Or you're reading a love story, or you're reading a comedy. Maybe it's enjoyable reading. I have a friend here who's going to explain why ER is so important.
Hi everybody! Today's presentation is brought to you by the letters E and R. ER, extensive reading. Yay! Emma loves reading. Yeah. And Emma loves you too. Yay! Bye!
Okay, Elmo loves reading, and he loves you too, of course. Today's workshop is brought to you by the letters E and R. We're going to talk about extensive reading and what it means and how you can do it, how you can use it as a teacher. Okay, now what is ER? Extensive reading basically means reading a lot of easy, enjoyable books. Okay, and that's a simple definition. Reading a lot of easy, enjoyable books. But every word is really important. Here's a thought. I was in Malaysia a while ago, and we were driving down the road, and I saw this sign on the side of the road that said, all you can read. Yeah, and there was a picture of a book with a spoon and a fork. It looked like a restaurant, but it wasn't. It was a bookstore. And I thought, all you can read, Yomi Hodai, right? Because when we think Nani Nani Hodai, we usually think Tabe Hodai, all you can eat, Nomi Hodai, all you can drink. We don't think of Yomi Hodai. But when you think about it, it's Tabe Hodai. You go to one of these all you can eat cake restaurants or dessert restaurants. And at first, wow, that's great. And before long, oh, that doesn't feel so great. And Nomi Hodai, maybe it's fun at the time, but the next morning, no. But Yomi Hodai, all you can read, gives you long-term pleasure. Yeah? And it's actually good for you. When we talk about reading, especially when we talk about teaching reading, we divide it into intensive and extensive reading. Yeah? Intensive is most of what you did when you were in high school and junior high with English reading. It is slow. Extensive reading is fast. Intensive is skill building. Skimming, scanning, study reading, the kind of skills we talked about in the other video. Extensive reading is fluency building. Intensive reading is a test focus, whether that's Juken Benkyo kind of test, or it's just read this and answer the comprehension questions, but it's a kind of test. Extensive reading is pleasure focused. You read to enjoy. Now, I compare it to a seesaw, a teeter-totter. Yeah? Because the teeter-totter or a seesaw on a school playground goes up and down, and that's what reading often does. A story. This is me when I was a kid. Okay? Mark, my name's spelled with a C. Now, my best friend's name was also Mark, spelled with a K. And Mark with a K was, how shall I say it, kind of large. Okay? Now, Mark and I were great friends, and we did everything together. We were in the same room at school. We would go to the library together. We would go to movies together. We would go to the playground together, but that was a problem because games on the playground, especially something like teeter-totter, like seesaw, was never very much fun because, well, it's kind of a matter of balance. And that's the problem we have with intensive reading at school. Intensive reading is good. Intensive reading is fine. But often that's all that the students get. We lack balance. All of the reading is slow, skill building, and test focused. And students need faster, fluency building, pleasure reading, and they need it from the beginning. Okay, what is extensive reading? In Japanese, we usually say tadoku, which is correct. But I have a friend in Nagoya, she's a reading teacher. She likes to call it rakudoku. Because think about raku, the fun, the enjoyment, the pleasure. Now, here in Sendai, a lot of people are fans of the Rakuten Eagles. And Rakuten, of course, has raku in it. And I like the logo that has the wings coming off the word eagles. And I don't know who makes kanji, who decides on how to do kanji, but I think they should change rakudoku. I think they should put wings on it, like in Rakuten Eagles, because it's those wings that help you fly. And that's what extensive reading does with your reading. It helps us fly. Okay, extensive reading, reading a lot of easy, enjoyable books. Why? Well, the benefits of extensive reading. Number one benefit, students who do extensive reading, increased reading ability. And you're probably thinking, well, yeah, you read a lot, you're going to read better. Well, that's kind of the point. But there's more. Students who do extensive reading have greater affect. That means positive emotion, greater motivation for reading, and that spreads, that passes on to greater motivation for learning English. A bigger vocabulary. Frankly, I think this is one of the keys to extensive reading. You read a lot, it builds your vocabulary, and that makes all of your English better. It makes all your English level go up. Students who do extensive reading have greater listening ability, even if they haven't been practicing listening in class. Because you get two reasons. Number one, you get a bigger vocabulary. And number two, you just get used to how English fits together. You can pick out words, you can pick out meaning better. So greater listening ability, greater speaking ability. Again, even if they haven't been studying speaking or practicing speaking, because you're just more familiar with English. Greater spelling ability. Now, this sounds hard to believe, but it's true. Students who do extensive reading can spell English better, even words that were not in the book. Because English is made up of every language in the world, right? This just gives lots and lots of practice. And it facilitates, that means it helps acquisition. In Eigoka Kyoiku Ho 1, you learned about SLA, second language acquisition, the natural learning process. And extensive reading helps with this. Benefits of extensive reading. You lose weight, your love life improves, your skin clears up, you win the lottery, you find the meaning of life. Okay, maybe not, but at least you could read about all these things. The point is, extensive reading really, really, really helps. It helps students learn more English, but it helps students enjoy more English more, which is just as important. Okay, we said it's reading a lot of easy, enjoyable books. okay? And they're reading. Most of the time is spent reading. It's not answering questions, not writing reports, not translating. They might do those things. There's nothing wrong with any of them, but most of the time is for reading. And reading a lot of enjoyable books, easy, enjoyable books, right? By a lot, I really mean a lot, okay? Many, 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 many books. Not one book per semester, not even one book a month. It's probably several books every week. Because remember, these are easy books. You can read them quickly, okay? Now, there's kind of a macho image of reading, of learning English. When you were in high school, your teachers gave you stories, books, that were actually too difficult. Because the purpose was not actually to learn English. The purpose was juken benkyo, to get into university. Well, that's not the best way to learn. So we don't want to give students hard books. We want to give them lots and lots of easy books. There's an expression in weightlifting, no pain, no gain. Well, in reading, no reading pain, no reading gain. That's kind of a macho rule. That's not true. Reading pain, no reading gain. If it's painful, you don't want to do it, you don't learn very much. Easy is good. Okay? Please think about that. Easy is good. And again, in Eigo Kyoiku Ho 1, you learned about SLA, second language acquisition. You learned about comprehensible input. Do you remember I+1? The idea that if your English level is here, you need input just a little bit higher to make your level go up. If it's up here, it's too hard. You don't learn anything. That's SLA. That's second language acquisition. In reading fluency, we talk about I-1. If this is your English level, you need to be reading about here, just a little bit easier than what you're capable of, so that it's easy. You can do it quickly, because easy builds speed, and speed builds fluency, and fluency builds understanding. It's the need for speed. Yeah. And this is hard to explain, because all of your life in school, you've been taught, gambaro, push hard, push hard. But with reading, it's got to be easy, it's got to be fast. Remember, when you were a child, when you were a kid, you didn't start with hard books in Japanese. You started out with picture books, eihon, right? And easy stories, interesting stories, Momotaro, stuff like that you could enjoy. The Hungry Caterpillar, maybe, right? That you could read quickly. Now, to make the point about the need for speed, I'm going to show you one sentence in Japanese. And I'd like you to read it silently, not out loud. Read it silently, and number one, think about meaning, but notice what is happening in your mind as you read this sentence. Let me step out of the way, and please think about the need for speed. That was kind of hard, wasn't it? Now, you knew every word, but it was hard to get a picture of the whole idea. And did you notice your mind was kind of jumping? We talk about monkeys jumping from tree to tree in attention, and that's kind of what was happening there. The sentence meant something like this. When you read slowly, one word at a time, as you are doing now, it's easy to understand the meaning of each word, but it's very difficult to understand the real meaning of the text of the whole story. That's the need for speed. Okay? When we read slowly, we don't understand very much. And so we don't enjoy reading. And so we don't read very much. So we read slowly. And we don't understand very much. And so we don't enjoy reading and we don't read very much. It's kind of this negative spiral, which is why so many people don't enjoy reading, because the way they were taught was not fun. Now, when you read faster, you understand more. And when you understand more, you enjoy it more. And if you enjoy it, what happens? You read more, and it's this positive spiral that we're trying to create. We're trying to help our students experience. Okay? Now, please remember, easy is good. Easy books are good. And we want them reading a lot of easy, enjoyable books, which means usually it's about their interests. Yeah? Usually, their interests. So that means if you like love stories, read love stories. If you like detective stories, read detective stories. If you like true stories, read nonfiction. If you like fiction, great, read that. Read whatever you like. It's very much like L1, that means native language. You read the same kind of stuff in English that you read in Japanese. And some people say, oh, well, I don't like reading Japanese. Actually, most Japanese people read a lot every day. Maybe you're reading books, or maybe you're reading on your telephone. You're reading texts from friends, you're reading Instagram, you're reading whatever you're reading, but you're reading to enjoy. And that's what we're trying to do in the classroom. And enjoyable books. Okay? Now, in Jido Eigo, you're taking a reading class where you're reading books from the library, and we've got over 6,000 books in the Miyagi Gakuin library that are easy. And mostly you read those outside of class. Now, as a reading teacher, I like bringing the books back into class. Okay? So how do we do that? Well, one way is what's called SSR, which means sustained just means long, silent reading. I often start my reading classes with 10, 15, 20 minutes of just reading time. Because, number one, I want the students reading. Number one, I want them to know, as teacher, I value this. I think this is a good use. So I read silently too. Okay? Now, you guys are also going to teach children, so sometimes for SSR, for children, we call it sit still and read, but it's the same idea. And then we often do activities. Yeah? Activities like an instant book report. An instant book report can be as simple as think of a book you're reading or read recently and talk to your partner about it. Now, I usually give the students some think time. Take a minute, think, what do I want to say? How will I say it? And I give them a pattern. I'm reading, or I read, a book called Nani Nani. It's what kind? It's a mystery. It's a science fiction book. It's a love story. It's a detective story. It's about, what's the main story? the main characters are, and I can tell them the names, the jobs, the personality. In the story, there was a problem, because almost every story has a problem. That's what makes it a problem, makes it a story. And I liked it or I didn't like it because. Okay? Or it could be as simple as show a picture. Many of the books have pictures. A lot of you know this story. I might take it and just flip open to, okay, here's a picture of Belle and the Beast dancing. So I could talk about how they were falling in love. But here's a fight, and the Beast is getting hit with an arrow, but that, as you probably know, leads to the climax of the story when the Beast turns into the prince. So show a picture, talk about it, partner, ask questions. My top 5. I very often do this at the end of the semester. I have the students look over the books that they've read, and what are the best books? What are the most interesting books? What were the most interesting books this semester? And choose them, talk about them. Okay? Hint. Most students will not talk about all 5, right? So you ask them to think of 5, and then they talk about 2 or 3. That way the slower students only have time to think of 2 or 3, but that's okay. They don't get behind. Soon to be a movie. I imagine, let's take many of the stories are movies, but let's imagine you're reading a story that's not a movie. Who would you cast as the characters? Okay, let's say Romeo and Juliet as an example story. Now that's been a movie many, many times. But what if you're the director, you're making a Japanese version? So who is Romeo? Japanese movie stars or TV stars. Who's Romeo? Who's Juliet? Or we're making a class version. In our class, we're doing a play. Who's Romeo? Who's Juliet? Who are all the different characters? Just something else to do. I have my students keep reading notebooks. Some teachers like to have the students keep track of books online. And there are several systems to give quizzes. Those are good. But if you're teaching junior high or elementary school, I don't know if you'll have access to those. I know you can do reading notebooks. So I have 4 reading reports that my students can do. The basic reading report is just, it's 2 parts. What was the book about? What you thought of it. And second, what's your opinion? Was it good, average, or poor? Okay. Now some teachers have them do half in English for writing practice and half in Japanese. For example, your opinion might be Japanese so they can go deeper. But that's the basic report. Report number 2, draw a picture. I ask my students to draw a picture from the story. Don't copy a picture. Don't just draw the same picture. Draw one from your imagination and then tell me about it. And they can do it as part of a report, or we can do it in class and they show the picture to a partner. Your own questions. I have students take a book. This is a new book. They look at the cover, they read maybe the back cover. There's usually some information. And then they write 3 questions. One from the beginning of the book, one from the middle, one toward the end. And then as they read the story, they answer their own questions. So what I'm really trying to do is getting them to preview what's going on, right? To think about what's going to happen, okay? And then it continues. And the story and you. Think about the story, what happened, What's the same as your life? What's different? And in most stories, you can find something the same, find something different. And let me tell you, this can be very, very powerful. A few years ago, I had a student who was reading a biography, that means a life story, of Lady Diana. Okay, the bell is to give you time to think about your story. Okay, what's the same as the story about and in your life? Anyway, my student was reading about Lady Diana, or Princess Diana, and she wrote the story, on the story side, Princess Diana's life was very sad. She had many problems. And then the student wrote, under the my life side, I know sadness too. Last year, my father died. And see, I hadn't known that. But this gave the student a chance to tell me what she was going through. And it was a very good experience for her to connect to, number one, to be able to share this and to connect it to the story. Okay, starting to wrap up. How did you learn to read? Japanese, I mean. School? Kanji practice? No, it started way before that. You probably learned to read when Mama and Papa and your teachers were reading you stories, reading you picture books, reading you Kaguya Hime and all of those, Monkey and the Crab, all those kids' books. And that's how you learned to read. And you probably asked for the same story again and again and again and again. And then you started reading it. You started saying some of the words. And you started noticing the characters, the hiragana, katakana, later kanji. Okay? Extensive reading and listening. Yeah? Many of the readers in the library come with audio that you can listen to online. Sometimes there are DVDs, but now most often it's just online streaming. Video is great too. Extensive reading and listening. Movies are wonderful, but movies are very, very long. I like short TV shows, 30-minute TV shows, because 30-minute TV shows are actually shorter than that. And so you can watch them, for example, once in English with Japanese subtitles. Subtitles means GMAX Super. And then watch it again in English with English subtitles. Extensive listening, reading and listening on the web. There's lots of sites. One super easy way is go to YouTube. And do you know the word lyrics? Lyrics means kashi, the words to a song. Type in the name of an artist you like, plus the word lyrics, and you will find video of the artist singing along with the words. For example,
you're on the phone with your girlfriend, she's upset, she's going off about something that you said. She doesn't get your humor like I do.
That's reading. Yeah? And everybody loves music, so this is a good way. Now, what if you can't find a lyrics version? Well, you can open two windows. One window has the words, and the other window has the music video. So here's Gaga. And, oops, hi, try it again. So here's the video. Okay, and the lyrics went away. But anyway, you have two windows, music, the video in one, the lyrics in the other. A good podcast is a4esl.org. Also, with the books, there are CDs or MP3 files. Sakai Kunihiro Sensei, is at Denki Tsushin University in Tokyo, and he's an extensive reading expert, and he has 3 rules that I think are a good idea. Number 1, no dictionaries. If you don't know a word, skip it, ignore it. Also, if you have to have a dictionary for the book, it's too difficult. And if it's boring, stop reading. Get another book. No dictionaries because they cause frustration. They don't help you remember. Choose books you can enjoy without it. Also, I teach my students the baseball rule, which is like you meet a new word. Strike 1, don't worry, just skip it. You meet the same word a second time, you still don't know, make a guess. Same word, third time, strike 3, go ahead and look it up. Your dictionary should be your last choice, not your first. Okay? If you don't know a word, ignore it. Concentrate on what you do know. Read faster, read more. Choose books you can enjoy just skipping through. And if it's boring, stop reading. Don't try too hard. There are many, many other books. Stop reading, choose a different one. Why extensive reading? Well, as a teacher, I can tell you the research is clear. Yeah? Research is kenkyu. Statistics are convincing. Statistics is the, again, part of research. Methodology. But most of us don't teach that. Most of us are going to be regular classroom teachers. We teach people. And people need to learn to read and enjoy reading. I want to close with a quote from an American comedian who is famous for saying, outside of a dog, a book is man's best friend. Now, he was right. This is Groucho Marx. He was writing a while ago. We don't say man's best friend anymore. We would say a person's best friend. But outside of a dog, a book is a person's best friend. And inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. Okay. Thank you for paying attention. Please think about this. And I really, really hope you enjoy learning to love teaching English reading. I really hope your students learn to enjoy it too.